virtually. His Excellency Mr. Jigme Thinley Namgyal, Consul General, Royal Bhutanese Consulate General, Guwahati. Mr. Bernard He, Regional Head, ADB. Mr. Prashant Chandran, Director, BIMSTEC. Mr. Kenichi Yokoyama, former Country Director, ADB India, Distinguished Fellow, Asian Conference. Dr. Umezaki So, Director, Economic Integration Studies Group, Development Studies Center, IDE, JETRO. I'd now like to hand over to the chair, Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, to take over the panel. Thank you.
Good evening, dear friends. I can see that the panel is strong and the hall is a little light. But I'm sure it will change soon as people get their chance to have their cup of coffee and then come back, because I think all of us know that until this panel offers you food for thought, you are not going to get real food. I'm really very grateful for this full presence of our panel here. And you can see from the booklet, they have incredible credentials. But now we really can say that this is the bonus session, because having heard about the bigger picture, we now need to focus on the real project which is in front of us. What came out in the previous two sessions basically is this. India and Japan have worked together for shared interests. They have achieved quite a lot in accelerating the economic and social development of northeast of India. And in the process, they have also helped building stronger connections between the northeast and the neighboring region. But what we have achieved is still not enough by any stretch. So the more you hear about the plans and the schemes for future, the more you are bound to reflect on, if we are doing so well, where is the problem? And so what I want to stress is that we can follow a mixture of realism and optimism. I think we need to be candid and frank as to what the constraints are, what the challenges are, and at the same time, we have to also come up with creativity, with confidence, with a constructive approach to see that this whole idea, closer cooperation for the larger benefit, is achieved. Now, in that general picture, I think we all know that the specific purpose of this session is to focus on co-creating ecosystems for change, which was the larger theme, but now it has been divided into three pillars: technology, education, and logistics. We will try to put a special focus on the third pillar, logistics. And we need to see how in our collective reflection and wisdom, this can be achieved particularly by focusing on some of the well-known projects that we are hearing about: Matarbari in Bangladesh, Gelephu Mindfulness city in Bhutan, and also a mixture of projects that you have heard about that are unfolding, not merely in Assam, but in the larger northeast. So with this basic background, my role is going to be to speak as little as possible and like you, hear as much as possible, especially because time is a challenge. So what I'm going to do is to request my panelists to please take about 8 minutes each person. And of course, they are the best judge to decide when those 8 minutes are over. That could be at 9 or 10 minutes as well, but we are here in a very strong, friendly and business surroundings, and therefore you will receive full listening to by our audience. And it is in this context now, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Takahashi Naoki, Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh, to present his views before us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador. My name is Takahashi, Deputy Head of Mission, coming from the Japanese Embassy in Bangladesh. I would first like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Asian Conference for holding the 5th edition of India-Japan Intellectual Conclave. I would also like to thank Asian Conference for extending invitation to us, actually Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh, to attend this important event. It is truly an honor and a pleasure for me to stand in front of you, to be able to speak about, the vision of FOIP, Free and Open Indo-Pacific, and also the significance of the Bay of Bengal region and the northeastern part of India in this vision. And we have what Japan has been doing in Bangladesh under the banner of Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt, notably Matarbari Deep Port Project. Actually, the very name of Asian Conference, our host tonight, deeply resonates with the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific, because exactly the word conference was referred to by the then Prime Minister Abe when he launched the idea of a FOIP for the first time on the occasion of a TICAD conference in Nairobi back in 1916. Prime Minister Abe said, and I quote, "Japan bears the responsibility of fostering the confluence of the Pacific and Indian Oceans and of Asian Africa into a place that values freedom, the rule of law, as a market economy, free from force and coercion, and making it prosperous." The core principles of FOIP are freedom, the rule of law, diversity, inclusiveness, and openness. And I believe FOIP has now gained widespread support and endorsement from many countries in the world. Japan believes that this vision has become particularly relevant today amid historical changes in power balances and geopolitical competitions. The Bay of Bengal and northeastern region of India bear strategic importance in realizing the vision of FOIP. It is against this background that the then Prime Minister Kishida announced a new plan for FOIP during his visit to India in March 2023 and proposed, among others, develop an industrial value chain connecting the Bay of Bengal and northeastern region of India. This industrial value chain aims at developing business and industry across India and Bangladesh while connecting northeastern region of India to the sea by enhancing hard and soft infrastructure and by promoting private investment. A major component of this industrial value chain in the Bangladeshi side, I'm talking about Bangladesh because I'm coming from Dhaka, is an initiative called Big B, the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt. Big B is an initiative launched by the Japan and Bangladesh at the summit level back in 2014. Bangladesh is located in a zone of strategic importance facing the Bay of Bengal and connecting the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. Big B's goal is to create industrial cluster from Dhaka to Cox's Bazar via Chittagong and to transform this belt area into a hub of an international value chain. Japan's commitment to this promoting Big B initiative was reaffirmed once again by Mrs. Ikuina, Parliamentary Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan, during her visit to Bangladesh earlier this week. Japan has been conducting various mega infrastructure projects under the banner of Big B in Bangladesh. But if I quote one particular project, this is going to be certainly about a Matarbari Deep Port Development Project. As you know, Chittagong Port, which handles almost all of Bangladesh's containerized cargoes, has seen its cargo trade performance increase significantly in the last decades, already exceeding its cargo handling capacity. Moreover, its shallow water depths considerably limit Chittagong port's capacity. Development of the Matarbari Deep Port will be a crucial breakthrough in unlocking the full potential of national and regional connectivity. Matarbari Deep Port will enable Bangladesh to expand its cargo handling volume and cope with the rapidly increasing demand for cargo. This project is expected to be completed around 2027 or 28. That means only in 2 or 3 years from now. As Ambassador Ono pointed out in his opening address, Matarbari Deep Port can truly be a game changer in enhanced regional connectivity under the Industrial Value Chain Initiative that will benefit not only Bangladesh, but also northeastern region of India. I'm confident that Matarbari Deep Port will greatly benefit Bangladesh if, this is important if, northeastern part of region of India and Nepal and Bhutan also feeds the port. Well, connectivity is not only about mega infrastructures. It is also about creating the environment for it. This is under this recognition that Japan has been working in Bangladesh to improve the trade and investment environment in Bangladesh through public-private partnerships. And also, in view of Bangladesh's graduation from the LDC status, least developed country status, in 2026, Japan and Bangladesh are now vigorously pursuing negotiations in the view to concluding an economic partnership agreement. However, in order to materialize an industrial value chain connecting the Bay of Bengal and northeastern part of India, we need to sustain long-term efforts and to overcome many challenges that lie ahead. I think the representative general from Dhaka, Mr. Ando, made a brilliant presentation regarding the challenges that lie ahead. From diplomatic point of view, I think it is indispensable that for India and Bangladesh to maintain good relations as neighboring countries. In this context, we have to note that India and Bangladesh are now experiencing kind of challenges and complexities following a student-led political uprising and the formation of an internal government in Bangladesh last year. I hope that ongoing diplomatic efforts by the two countries will help them navigate these challenges and preserve their long-standing partnership. And in concluding, Japan, for its part, will stand firmly by both of them, Bangladesh and India, as a friend of both India and Bangladesh to co-create ecosystems for change. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, TCM, for a forward-looking analysis, and at the same time, you stood up to the challenge and spoke candidly as well about the concerns. It was wonderful to hear once again Prime Minister Abe's very advised use of the word confluence once upon a time, a word which is very sacred in India for many reasons that you know. And then you went on to talk about the importance of industrial value chains and especially the pivotal significance of the project which is unfolding today, Matarbari port and the surrounding industrial zone that would come up. And at the same time, you also expressed concern as a friend of both India and Bangladesh about the present state of relations. I want to just add a line to say that there is concern in India and there is concern in Bangladesh as well. But now we are in a very good position to hear a direct voice from Bangladesh, and it is an old friend of India and an old advocate of India-Bangladesh relations, Ambassador Tariq Ahmad Karim, President Bay of Bengal Institute and Advisor Emeritus, Cosmos Foundation, Bangladesh. He's going to offer a video message for all of us, and I request all of you to listen to him carefully. Thank you.
I thank the Asian Confluence for inviting me to speak and share some of my thoughts at this 5th edition of the India-Japan Intellectual Conclave. I congratulate both the Asian Conclave and the Japanese Embassy in India for sustaining this important dialogue over the last few years. I've had the opportunity and occasions of being a participant in some of the conversations in this dialogue or related to the theme of this India-Japan collaboration, and particularly in the larger context of regional and sub-regional cooperation and collaboration for mutual benefit and socio-economic development of the peoples inhabiting the eastern part of South Asian subcontinent comprising Bangladesh, Bhutan, Northeast India, and Nepal, which is more commonly known by its accepted acronym now of BBIN. I have been a staunch votary of regional and sub-regional cooperation for almost well over last 30 years, when I first introduced the idea into the lexicon of the Bangladesh government's talking points. At that time, it was still an idea before its time. However, like a baby gestating before its birth, the idea may still be, perhaps, in the 3rd trimester of such gestation. This can be a critical period that may see the birth of a healthy and well-developed baby or a stillborn infant. I sincerely and fervently hope it will not be the latter. Today's Northeast India, West Bengal, and Bangladesh were all parts of what was known as the Bengal Presidency of British India, and prior to that, as the Bengal Suba of the Mughal Empire. In both these historic periods, this was a region integrally linked and bound together through a holistic, almost seamless configuration of connectivity and symbiotic economic activities. This part of the historical civilizational subcontinent constituted perhaps the richest part of former pre-partition India, whether during British colonial era or Mughal era or even earlier to times dating back to the 4th century of the Christian era. With the partition of India in 1947 and the several sub-partitions thereafter that plagued this region, we lost our connectedness and our economic gravitas as well, most grievously. While the previous seamless connectivity by land, water, including inland waterways and coastal waters and port connectivities, and railways added by the British towards the late 19th century, were all superbly configured for the purposes of colonial extraction of resources and marketing finished manufactured goods to a captive colonized market. I have consistently argued that we should not cut our nose to spite anyone else's, least of all one's own face. Rather, we should restore, revive, and reuse that same connectivity infrastructure for our respective people's well-being and holistic development in the politically reconfigured by partition subcontinent, for the larger well-being of all the peoples with their new sovereign identities. If other nations or regions in other parts of the world, like in Europe, Southeast Asia, East and West and Southern Africa, or Latin America do it, why cannot we in South Asia? Japan has been a staunch supporter of this concept, and we all owe Japan a debt of gratitude for undertaking a seemingly thankless task. Their MIDI and Big B projects are all ambitiously projects for restoring our lost greatness more than our own. Their Matarbari project is one of the most important elements in this comprehensively designed architecture. In this altruistic venture, Northeast India and Bangladesh need each other as they need Japanese assistance. We must complement each other and should continue doing so based on mutual trust, mutual respect for each other as sovereign entities in our own standing and right. Our little corner in the vast globe will, of course, like anywhere else, no doubt, face troubled times interspersing with good times. That is how life is for an individual, a community, or a nation. What is important is that we should not allow the hiccups of history to derail us in a forward trajectory towards a larger goal. While India-Bangladesh relations have had their ups and downs over the last half century, I am confident that given goodwill and sincerity on both sides and acknowledging historical necessity of working together with each other for shared prosperity rather than against each other, we shall, with patience and perseverance, overcome all odds and resume working together again towards the shared prosperity. I wish the conclave all success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Karim. You have spoken so well, essentially highlighting your vision of the virtues of connectivity involving Bangladesh and the neighborhood, not just India, but the larger neighborhood. And you have spoken astutely as a diplomat by using a very interesting phrase, hiccups of history. That hiccups of history should not allow the forward trajectory of our cooperation. I very much hope that this is an argument that is being heard with attention, both within India and Bangladesh and in the region. And I hope this will soothe and comfort our friends from Japan, because they have made it quite clear that they're concerned about this aspect. Thank you very much. Now, dear friends, it is my privilege to invite Mr. Jigme Thinle Namgyal, Consul General, Royal Bhutanese Consulate General in Guwahati. I just had met him and spoken to him, and he's obviously a long-term friend of this region, and I'm sure he has something very important to share with us. Over to you, sir.
Kuzuzangpo, Namaskar. At the very outset, I would like to thank the organizers of the 5th India-Japan Intellectual Conclave, Kizuna, for inviting me to this event. Bhutan shares a special bond of friendship with both India and Japan. Both countries are Bhutan's traditional development partners and trusted friends. From infrastructure development to agriculture, education, healthcare, and technical assistance, Bhutan's socio-economic development has benefited from the goodwill and generous support of India and Japan. Many Bhutanese increasingly come to Guwahati and the rest of Northeast India for medical, education, and leisure tourism. Around 200 Bhutanese students are enrolled in different institutions in the Northeast region. This is natural choice given the easy travel made possible by the geographical proximity and highly improved connectivity infrastructure in Assam and elsewhere in Northeast India. The inauguration of immigration checkposts at Daranga in Assam in November 2024 has opened more avenues in the tourism sector as it enables travel of third country nationals between eastern Bhutan and Assam much easier. Considering the pristine nature and unique cultures both sides have to offer, tourism stakeholders from Bhutan and Assam are exploring ideas to develop concrete tourist circuits between Bhutan and Assam and in promoting eastern Bhutan districts and Assam as co-destinations. I am pleased to note that trade and commerce between Bhutan and Northeast region of India, Assam in particular, is also growing deeper and stronger. Bhutan conducts trade with this part of India and beyond through at least 7 land customs stations and 3 riverine ports. Jogikopa Multimodal Logistic Park has been a great point of interest for Bhutan, as the logistic hub is expected to be equipped with the state-of-art infrastructure, besides advantages in terms of reduced distance and logistic cost. We are also excited to know about the upcoming Matarbari Deep Sea port being developed jointly by Japan and India on the shores of Bay of Bengal, making the logistic services in the region more efficient. The historic visit of His Majesty the King of Bhutan to Assam in November 23 and that of Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Hemanta Sharma Biswa, to Bhutan in December 22 are significant highlights in the age-old ties between Bhutan and Assam. The 5th conclave on co-creating ecosystem for change through technology, education, and logistics serves as an important platform for exchanging views and exploring areas of collaboration by leveraging technology, education, and logistics. I am sure we will get to listen to research papers and intellectual insights about the important role of technology, education, and logistics for a prosperous Bay of Bengal region. The importance of synergy between technology and education and logistics will be realized in Bhutan's ambitious vision for developing the Gelephu Mindfulness City. The idea of Gelephu Mindfulness City has emerged from the royal vision of our beloved King, His Majesty Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk. The Gelephu Mindfulness City is a project envisioned for the people of Bhutan and for the world. The Gelephu Mindfulness City is an innovative urban development project that integrates economic growth with mindfulness, holistic living, and sustainability. The project is Bhutan's contribution to a world that is seeking new ideas, better options, and inspiring examples. At a time when the world is looking for hope, His Majesty has said, I quote, often some of the largest problems can be solved with a single good idea, and sometimes that idea can come from a small country, unquote. The launch of Bhutan's Gelephu Mindfulness City also coincides fortuitously with the dawn of Asian century. The South Asian region presents vast economic prospects with 2 billion people who are young and ambitious. The GMC is strategically positioned as a business and financial center, economic and technology hub, aviation and transit gateway for the region, just as Singapore is South is for Southeast Asia and Dubai for Middle East. For these aspirations to be realized, the important role of technology, education, and logistics cannot be emphasized enough. At this point in time, what we know is that Gelephu Mindfulness City will have a basic features of the world's advanced urban centers, that it will be a city free of corruption, drugs, and crime, one that offers both the infrastructure and the governance needed for long-term prosperity. Construction of Gelephu International Airport is announced as an immediate component of the project. Overall, as the city will be governed under a special administrative region with executive, legal, and judicial autonomy, a separate board of directors is instituted, and the former Prime Minister of Bhutan serves as the governor of SAR region, SAR Gelephu. It is hoped that the project of this magnitude will be a game changer for the region, propelling the region, especially Northeast India, being most immediate to Bhutan, to a greater heights of prosperity and growth. And we are together in this journey of growth and development. This is the bright future awaiting us. As I conclude, I would like to wish everyone present here a fruitful deliberation. Thank you, and Tashi Telek.
Thank you, Consul General, for talking about mindfulness city. This concept, some of us are familiar with in this country, but I think this country and this region need to know more and more about it, because this fits into our larger cultural ethos so neatly and so clearly. So the vision of a mindful, happy city free of drugs, free of corruption, free of many evils that are associated with modern life is something that we need to focus on, not just in one part of the region, but perhaps in the entire region itself. Perhaps the scholars in India, and many of them are sitting here, need to do more research and then perhaps disseminate information on this to the larger audience. Thank you very much. This is a useful contribution you have made. May I now invite Mr. Bernard Ng Thiam He, Regional Head, ADB, for making his presentation. Asian Development Bank.
Oh, we have the magic wand here, so hopefully it works. Oh, magic wand is not working. Okay, so we have to do the audio cue. So, so I'm here from, I would like first, of course, to thank the organizer, Asian Conference, for, putting together this great program. And I've been learning a lot, so I think it's my turn to share back some of the knowledge. So I'll be talking about the Asian Development Bank flagship regional cooperation program for South Asia, which is the SASAC program. So in our program, we are looking at, how can we bring the region closer, which I think is sort of like the mystery that everyone here is planning to crack. So what we are trying to do in this region, the SASAC is a big grouping, but I'll focus actually on sort of the key activities that we are doing that I think that is most relevant to the discussion that we have here. So next. Okay. So SASAC was, conceived as a very much an institution light, but very much project focused. So we want to get our grips on, how can we, actually implement many of the ideals that has been expressed throughout the region. We want better roads, we want better connectivity, we want to trade better, we want to work better together, right? So I think someone earlier talked about the three spheres of cooperation, infrastructure connectivity, economic connectivity. So in SASAC, we try to sort of work to bring about greater infrastructure, better connectivity, and also we try to look at barriers to, how should we say, cooperation and trade across the region. Red tape, delays, so we try to unlock that. I think we can move to the next slide. Just to mention, I think if you have not seen that earlier, the key areas that we are working in SASAC is transport, which is like the infrastructure connectivity we're talking about, trade facilitation, energy, where we look at, how can we bring about better, connection of the energy grid, and finally on economic corridor development. So this is, I think, something that we want to better integrate the region together. So far, we have been doing quite well. We have invested a substantial amount. We have mobilized a large amount of money, and ADB has invested a lot of its money as well in, for the SASAC region. Next. What are the key activities that we do in SASAC? So SASAC, we have several major meetings. So the main meetings we have are basically what we call the working group meetings. So these are the meetings where we get together all the countries that are members of SASAC together, and then ADB, we serve as like the technical advisor for these kind of meetings. We produce reports, we sort of, countries will request us, is there something you can do to look at this particular area? So ADB would support that. So basically, we try to sort of serve as the lubricant to make sure that these meetings can proceed, provide the technical advice, so an impartial advisor to this kind of discussions. So we have, we also try to sort of promote certain things. So for example, climate change is a big issue now. So we have an event where we talk about the importance of how we can finance this critical climate transition. We have meetings of the customs subgroup, so where we bring together the customs people. So I think earlier, one of the presenters talked about a one-stop border post. So how do we sort of get the customs to collaborate together that we can have this kind of one-stop border post? The top level kind of decision making, we have the senior officials meeting. So these are the more senior level, usually at secretary level, additional secretary level to come in and discuss about the how the broader sort of policy implication of the SASAC. Next. Can move on to the next one. So I think one of the key areas that that we want to focus here is on the transport, right? So this area of this region, we have a lot of transport projects. We want to see greater connectivity. So SASAC, we have been pretty active about that. We have both done studies on the port side, so how we can improve the maritime connectivity. We done a study on how we can promote better India-Bangladesh movement of rail cargo. As you know, most of the cargo between India and Bangladesh is on road, so we are looking at ways how we can promote more rail-based transport. And of course, I think this is something that we have been working very much. Previous speaker has mentioned the importance of BBI and MVA. ADB, we have been supporting BBI and MVA way back since it was first signed. We have held many technical meetings. We bring the parties together. We provided studies on how they can collaborate. How we are so close many times, but we hope that one day we can seal the deal. The country can agree, and then we can have this the flows of traffic across the region can be facilitated. Next. So here I would like to show you, maybe not so clear, but as you can see, these are our SASAC road corridors, and you can see that we have a plan to connect the different parts of Bangladesh, Northeast India, all the way to Myanmar. So how do we sort of come out to this road corridor? the reason is because we are able to bring together the countries, and we sort of, the countries identify, and then they agree that, okay, we need to have this road corridor, and this is the important part of our coordination activities, right? Because to have like the roads connecting across the region, we need to have this sort of agreement across the different countries. Next. And then similarly, we have the next slide, please. We have done the same thing for the rail corridors as well to sort of facilitate that. Next. Just as important, as I mentioned earlier, we're not talking about hard infrastructure, we're talking about what can we do to facilitate trade in the region. So these are works that we are doing through the work of customs, food regulation, trying to find new ways for a trade corridor, and also how we can facilitate greater tourism. So this is the soft side, because we recognize that it's just as important to the barriers are not just for transport, the barriers are just as well on the regulation side. Next. So we have a meeting of our customs people so that the customs official can discuss how they can improve coordinations. Next. I think there's also of interest now in logistics. So ADB, we have been working on logistics program so far, mostly in India, but we think there's a great potential for that, right? So when we talk about logistics, it's about integrating everything together, right? The hardware, the software, how we can sort of make sure the good flows smoothly across the region. So this is a new area. We are very excited that we can sort of explore how we can sort of replicate the things that we have done in India to other countries. So Bangladesh, we are just about to start that as well. So we have started India, next up with Bangladesh. Next. I think we mentioned this beforehand, so maybe I'll just stop here. I hope I didn't take too much time. Thank you very much, and I hope I have given you a glimpse of what we do with on the SASAC program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for shedding light on SASAC. We keep very much hearing and reading about it from time to time. And it seems to me that now that almost a decade since SARC went to sleep, it's very important that we hear more about SASAC and its growing contribution. And there is great complementarity with the other institution, BIMSTEC, and we'll be hearing about that as well. In fact, it is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Prashant Chandran, Director BIMSTEC, who has come from Dhaka to address you. I'm very happy that we were able to get Secretary General address us when we spoke to him on behalf of Asian Confluence. He was readily accepted our invitation, and I think it was important for this regional dynamics for BIMSTEC to be seen as a very active player. So, Prakash, you have the floor now, and most welcome. Yeah.
Good evening. My presentation is having two parts. First part will be dealt with, it will be regarding BIMSTEC, its basic structure, functions, etc. And second part, I am talking about the initiatives being taken by BIMSTEC regarding or in the connectivity sector. Next. Slide move. BIMSTEC, it stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. It is an intergovernmental organization having 7 countries, 5 from South Asia and 2 from Southeast Asia. So virtually we are acting as a link between South Asia and Southeast Asia. It was established in 1997 and we got our secretariat in Dhaka in 2014. Next. So this is our evolution. We started in 1997 as BISTEC, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation. Then Myanmar joined in 1997, so rechristened as Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation. Then Nepal and Bhutan joined us in 2014. So the nomenclature changed to Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. We got our secretariat established in Dhaka in 2014. We got our charter signed in 2022 summit of our leaders, and it was ratified by all member countries by 2024. Next. So we are 1.8 billion, around 22% of global population. Our combined GDP is around 5 trillion, representing 5% of global GDP. And we have a combined external trade of 1.9 trillion, around 3% of global trade. Next. As I told you, we are 7 countries. We have identified 7 sectors of cooperation. Each member is leading one sector. So Bangladesh is having the charge of trade and investment. Bhutan is leading environment and climate change. The security sector is dealt with by India. Agriculture and food security is looked after by Myanmar. Connectivity by Thailand, science and technology by Sri Lanka, and people-to-people contact, including poverty alleviation, by Nepal. Next. This is about our core mechanism. At the bottom level, BIMSTEC Permanent Working Committee. It is a committee of joint secretary level officers from foreign ministries. They are reporting to senior officials meeting. It is secretary level officers. Then above that, we are having BIMSTEC ministerial meeting. It is a meeting of foreign ministers. And at the top, it's BIMSTEC Summit. It is held once in 2 years, and the next summit is slated to be in first week of April in Thailand. So other than this core mechanism, we have an informal mechanism also. It is called Core Mechanisms 2. We are having the retreat of leaders, ministers, or other important functionaries. It is informal meeting, mostly on the sidelines of other meetings like UN General Assembly, or for example, our leaders met in Goa in 2016 on the sidelines of BRICS Summit, and the latest retreat was of our foreign ministers held in New York last September on the sidelines of UN General Assembly. So this informal meeting that enables deliberations without a structured agenda and pre-negotiated outcome, and provides opportunities for out-of-box thinking and initiatives. Next. So I talked about the core mechanism. Other than that, we are having sectoral mechanisms as well. As I told you, we have identified 7 sectors of cooperation. So other than this core mechanism, we are having ministerial meeting in each sector. For example, India is leading the security sector. Security sector is having 2 subsectors as well, like disaster management and energy. In energy sector, we have a senior officials meeting. It consists of secretaries of power ministries or electricity ministry, from electricity ministries, and they are reporting to one ministerial mechanism, that is power ministers. Ultimately, whatever decisions taken at the sectoral mechanism, it will be placed before the core ministerial meeting. So all these mechanisms are assisted by numerous working groups, expert groups, technical groups, and study groups. For example, one example I can tell you, in the case of security sector, we are having 2 sectoral mechanisms. One is Home Minister's mechanism and other is national mechanism of national security chiefs. Under Home Minister's mechanism, we have 6 subgroups in areas like terrorism, human trafficking, then anti-money laundering, etc. In the case of National Security Chiefs mechanism, we have 4 expert groups on maritime security, space cooperation, cyber security, and so on. Next. Previous slide. BIMSTEC welcomes sectional partners. Our charter allows us. So we have already signed MOU with IFPRI and ADB, and we are working on MOUs with IORI, Indian Ocean Rim Association, the World Bank, UNESCAP, UNODC, and UNOPS. So BIMSTEC is poised to emerge as a leading regional organization. Next. We have our own charter, our own core mechanism, as well as sectoral mechanism. Our members are located in the strategic Bay of Bengal, which connects the sea lines of communication between Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean. We enjoy requisite political support, focus on economic and technical cooperation, and we stay away from political issues. Next, second part of my presentation regarding connectivity. The initiatives being taken by BIMSTEC regarding connectivity. First is transport connectivity. Our BIMSTEC master plan on transport connectivity, it was adopted in our last summit held in Thailand in 2022. Now we are in the process of implementing it. That report was prepared by ADB only. ADB has prepared another report on financing this transport connectivity as well. Next, maritime transport, we have another agreement, BIMSTEC Maritime Transport Cooperation Agreement, that will be signed in the upcoming summit in this April. And India proposed a BIMSTEC Center of Excellence on Maritime Transport on eastern coast of India. I will tell you, we are setting up a number of centers of excellences. We have already BIMSTEC Center on Weather and Climate set up by India in Noida. India has proposed another BIMSTEC Center on Disaster Management in Northeast India. BIMSTEC Center on Energy, it is already set up and it will be operationalized immediately in Bengaluru. So all these technical expert bodies, they will take up all these expert technical matters from the Secretariat. And we are a concept note on white shipping agreement is also being prepared. We have finalized a guideline on conduct of maritime law enforcement agencies during their interaction at sea. Next. Regarding digital connectivity, India has initiated a pilot study on requirement for digital public infrastructure in BIMSTEC countries. It has proposed a BIMSTEC satellite. It is assisting our members in developing nano satellites, and we are thinking about establishing a ground station in any of the member countries for using Indian IRS data. Regarding air connectivity, next. Thailand has proposed a BIMSTEC Open Skies Agreement. Next. Regarding trade facilitation, we are negotiating on 2 agreements. First is BIMSTEC Free Trade Agreement, FTA, and other is BIMSTEC Motor Vehicles Agreement. Then regarding energy connectivity, we have signed a BIMSTEC grid interconnection MOU in 2018. Now we have set up BIMSTEC Grid Interconnection Coordination Committee for implementing this MOU. And that master plan study is being carried out by ADB. And as I told you earlier, India is we have set up a BIMSTEC Energy Center in Bengaluru, and it will be operationalized soon. In short, connectivity is crucial for regional development and economic integration. BIMSTEC initiatives are enhancing transport, digital and energy connectivity, continued cooperation among member states is key to success. So we are always available. Please keep in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant, for a comprehensive presentation on BIMSTEC. This is one institution with which all of us are very familiar, and we quite clearly understand that it has a role, an important role to play in our region. But the question that can be raised is in what fashion BIMSTEC has the possibility to contribute to the theme of today's session, which is creating industrial value chains in our area. We also know that BIMSTEC has really some very good ideas, but whether BIMSTEC has enough funds of its own for development projects is another challenge that we need to discuss. And above all, we noted that the last Leaders Summit took place in 2016. So that means that 22. But still, I think essentially the political will needs to be generated much more to make BIMSTEC even more effective player. And we are hearing that the next summit is probably going to take place in the near future, and that could certainly be a very positive development. Now we are moving to the last two panelists, and I request Mr. Kenchi Yokoyama, former country director, ADB, India, and distinguished fellow Asian Confluence, to please take the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Bhatia, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, participants. I first would like to thank the Asian Confluence to allow me to participate as a former ADB staff, as well as distinguished guest, fellow of the conference. I would like to touch upon two specific opportunities with respect to this subject of this session. One is on the industrial value chain and the logistics, specific opportunities where development partners, policy advisors, think tanks, and of course the government may work together to tap the best out of this. And second is also the same, but more on the specific subject of how to accelerate the development of inland waterway transport. So this is based on my experience in ADB with some updates received from my former colleagues. So next slide, please. So first is with respect to industrial value chain and logistics. On this theme, ADB has been facilitating industrial corridor planning and development across Indian states. In order to, because we felt that this is the effective means to accelerate the industrial development and accelerating the economic structural transformation with job creation, which is the primary theme of the ADB's country assistance strategy. So this is an integrated approach covering industrial economic corridors, clusters and ecosystems, logistics, and urban agglomeration, and then skills and human resources development. Next slide, please. So with this concept, overall concept in mind, can you move to the next slide? So we have been working on several important economic corridors. By the way, economic corridor initially started by JICA, focusing on the Dhaka-Mumbai industrial corridor. So we also follow this idea essentially. So far, ADB has covered Indian East Coast, and then Indian Northeast Economic Corridor, and in between, ADB also assists the Bangladesh Southwest and the Northwest Economic Corridors. Next slide, please. So So this is essentially a sort of approach for integrating economic corridors. And these economic corridor plans both did note the significant opportunities for sub-regional integration. So both Indian side, Northeast, Bangladesh, Northeast side, see the other as an important market to tap. And various potential industries have been identified, listed here. And also it identified important critical logistics systems, infrastructure and logistics process and so on and so forth have been identified. So this corridor plan provides the essential platform, a necessary platform that could be utilized for developing the industrial chains in a collaborative manner between the two countries, by the government, by the private sector. Next slide, please. But given today's subject is more on logistics, I just would like to touch upon the latest progress on India and Bangladesh and point out some specific opportunities. So in case of India, as Bernard mentioned, we are providing a policy-based lending, policy advice plus technical assistance. And India, as covered by many participants here, has already established a very solid framework comprising Gati Shakti National Master Plan. This is providing an integrated infrastructure master plan, really aiming at the modal shift from the roads to more environmental sustainable green modalities like rail and inland waterways. And then second pillar is a national logistics policy. India is aiming to get the logistics performance indicator ranking of 25th by 2030 and so on. And key elements include all the essential elements to strengthen the logistics systems, digital platforms, asset to standardization, service benchmarking and improvements, and importantly, exim logistics and procedures and human resources and so on. So we would say that the progress is quite robust and in a good mode. And for this, ADB is providing technical assistance together with, I think, GIZ is also providing technical assistance, and World Bank also. Next slide, please. So I think I would like to touch upon the specific opportunities in Bangladesh. Now, they have also launched the National Logistics Policy in April before the change of the government. But this also has a good structure. I think World Bank has assisted. World-class efficient logistics system, and they set out a specific modal shift from, say, less fossil fuel consuming modalities like inland waterways and rails. And then the key elements are also there, like Indian systems. So the specific opportunities I'd like to highlight is the country is still 88th in the Logistic Performance Index. And now there's an opportunity to support the improvement of the various logistics policy elements and through policy reforms. So many participants, panelists mentioned a lot of procedural constraints, 40 days, 60 days. Those are potentially generically addressed by working with the government to make drastic reforms. And another important element is the, like Gati Shakti Master Plan, there's a huge opportunity for Bangladesh to develop the integrated logistics infrastructure master plan. And for this, there's a great opportunity that potentially JICA, ADB working together to support that this Bangladesh logistics master plan should really reflect the sub-regional integration as an important element. And there's a great scope for making Bangladesh to become the regional gateway to Northeast, to the other part of India, as well as the ASEAN countries, and so on. So beyond that, we should also focus, envision potentially, integrated, say, a logistics master plan across the South Asia region, as well as integrated industrial corridor plan across the South Asia, and together with the SASEC. So this is the first subject. Second subject, I just will briefly touch upon the inland waterways. Next slide, please. So inland waterways is seen as, both countries see this as a priority area because it's the least expensive and the less fossil for fuel-dependent transport. And also, both countries have developed a reasonable platform to work with. This protocol on inland water transit and the trade is established. And then coastal shipping also provides the framework, a platform where the shippers on both sides can, apply between the two marine ports and the designated river ports. So the system is there, but the next slide, please go to the next slide. This is a protocol port. Next slide, please. With this framework, the annual cargo volumes are really increasing, but particularly I would like to highlight that inland waterway transport in riverine sections above Narayanganj and Dhaka to Brahmaputra and to Meghna are facing significant challenges because this is a highly sediment-loaded river, and because of that, river course changes very frequently, and the dredging section can be filled up with the silt roads. So this is we really need to address these technical challenges as well, together with these logistical challenges. And then we have an opportunity to learn from the historic development of navigation channel development by, also combining the, inland water ports facilities with river stabilization revetments. Next slide, please. So if you look at the history of Mississippi and the Rhine and the Danube rivers, they also faced a lot of siltation and river erosion and river course changes. But they did this providing the revetment structures and gradually stabilized the river course. And then today, those rivers are really the main channel for inland waterway transport. Next slide, please. And this is, next slide, please. And this is a Chinese experience. Yellow River has a similar character with Assam's Brahmaputra shifting river course. But doing this bend control, they have been successfully able to stabilize the river channel. Next slide, please. So in this context, ADB, together with the World Bank, is undertaking several important projects for river stabilization or embankment, the revetment works. So Bangladesh side has, I think, almost 90 kilometers have been stabilized. And in Assam, ADB is providing assistance to provide max up to 90 kilometers. And in Bangladesh, there's a technical studies going on to stabilize the Jamuna section of the rivers. Next slide, please. So I just would like to, my final words, suggestion, next slide, please. Sorry. So there's a huge opportunities for enhancing collaboration of inland waterways transport and river management agencies within and between Bangladesh and India. And scope may include scoping and planning of long-term river channel stabilization, covering the important waterways 2 and say 16, and coordinating ongoing river erosion protection and in IWT fairway management works to augment the impacts. And finally, there's a scope for a focus study to priority routes on opportunities, issues, and actions for cargo enhancement. So these are potential areas that, opportunities that policymakers and the government may work together, and also development partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yokoyama. I think this was a real good deep dive into the challenges that face us in the domain of logistics. You have brought out so clearly the situation with regard to maritime and especially riverine transport. These are highly technical and very, very intricate, difficult challenges that our region faces. And I'm very happy that someone like you, with your background, you have been able to bring at least some of the complexities before this audience. Thank you very much. Our last panelist now is Mr. Umzeki So, Director, Economic Integration Studies Group, Development Studies Center, IDE JETRO. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And very good evening, Excellencies, distinguished guests and participants, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm So Umezaki, a researcher from the Institute of Developing Economies, IDE JETRO. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Asian Conference for inviting me to this important conclave. I've been working on the issues related to the economic integration in ASEAN and surrounding regions, particularly since I was seconded to the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, area in short, which was established in 2008 in Jakarta, based on the agreement of the East Asian Summit, which includes Japan and India, of course. Then we conducted a study on how to enhance the connectivity between ASEAN and India in collaboration with researchers from Thailand, Myanmar, and India, of course. That was my first collaboration with Professor Pravir De from the RIS. And also that project was supported by Professor Kenmei Tsubota. And actually, this is my second visit to Assam. The last time in 2017, I was invited to an international workshop held at Kaziranga on the economic development of this northeastern region of India. As you know, Kaziranga has a huge and beautiful national park conserving various wildlife. Indeed, it's a very attractive tourist destination which can help economic development of this region. I'm very happy to come back here again. Anyway, so far, we've already listened to very informative presentations and inspiring visions, including a lot of details. So I believe that we all share the view that the regional connectivity connecting the northeastern region and the Bay of Bengal is highly important to boost economic development of this region. So here, in order to avoid the repetition, I would like to highlight a little bit different points, several lessons we can learn from the experience of ASEAN. The first point I'd like to highlight is the importance of maintaining the balance between competition and cooperation. Both are important, but without competition, we may lose efficiency. And without cooperation, we may lose resiliency. Both of them are important. And advanced ASEAN member states such as Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia attracted a large amount of FDI from Japan and other East Asian countries in the latter half of, since the latter half of the 1980s, in response to the significant depreciation of the US dollars as a result of the Plaza Accord in 1985. And because of that, East Asian economies, including Japan, started to relocate their production facilities to ASEAN countries in order to reduce the production costs to maintain price competitiveness of their export products. At that time, ASEAN countries were trying to shift from their import substitution to export-oriented development strategies. For that purpose, they needed FDI, which entails advanced manufacturing technologies, managerial skills, and market access. And in order to attract FDI, they, as a member states, as if competing, developed economic infrastructures such as roads, ports, industrial estates, power plants, and so on, and sometimes utilizing ODA, and offered a number of tax and non-tax incentives to the potential investors. As a result of such competition, the infrastructure was developed efficiently and business environments were improved rapidly. On the other hand, ASEAN member states have enhanced regional cooperation significantly during the same period. In early days, BBC scheme, which stands for brand-to-brand complementary. BBC scheme introduced in 1988 aimed at facilitating intra-ASEAN trade of parts and components for automobiles. And also after ASEAN Free Trade Area entered into force in 1993, it took a long time to proceed, but today it is the core of the ASEAN Economic Community under the new name of ASEAN Trading Goods Agreement, ATIGA. In addition, by making one voice of ASEAN, they successfully enhanced their bargaining power in negotiating with external partners, including Japan, China, and other countries. As a result of such regional cooperation, they successfully improved the attractiveness of ASEAN as a whole as investment destination. Also, each ASEAN member state found ways to leverage its own competitive advantages vis-à-vis neighboring peers. This has led to the deepening of intra-regional trade in ASEAN. Now, ASEAN countries are deeply integrated in global value chains. In addition, they themselves are deeply connected through intra-regional trade. During the process, FDI from Japan and other countries played a significant role. In other words, ASEAN member states successfully attracted FDI from other countries. In contrast, the degree of GBC participation and intra-regional trade of South Asia has been growing, but still limited in comparison with ASEAN countries. In other words, there remains more room to learn from the experience of ASEAN. The balance between competition and cooperation, as I highlighted, was made possible by rule-based regional cooperation in ASEAN, facilitated by the ASEAN Secretariat. The rule-based regional cooperation has enhanced the predictability and attractiveness of the region as a single investment destination. Of course, ASEAN has not been free from political conflicts or territorial disputes between member states. There has been a lot of problems. But even in such difficult time, ASEAN has maintained their momentum to deepen economic integration in pursuit for the regional prosperity. In order to leverage ASEAN's experience in facilitating the development of the northeast region of India and the Bay of Bengal, I have a very big expectation on the role of BIMSTEC because it consists of major South Asian countries and two ASEAN countries, namely Myanmar and Thailand. So BIMSTEC can be an efficient framework to translate the successful experience of ASEAN into the context of South Asia. It was really fortunate that the BIMSTEC, it was really unfortunate that the BIMSTEC summit was postponed, but the process is expected to be reactivated soon. Finally, Japan has a long history to collaborate with ASEAN as a whole, in addition to bilateral cooperation with each ASEAN member states. Actually, 2 years ago, 2023, was the 50-year anniversary of Japan-ASEAN economic cooperation. In addition to bilateral cooperation with India, with Bangladesh, and with other South Asian countries, Japan may play additional role in promoting a rule-based regional cooperation in the Northeast India and the Bay of Bengal by supporting a lot of various initiatives under the BIMSTEC. This is my talk. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for a very wide-ranging and yet very concise presentation where so many important players such as ASEAN, SASEC, BIMSTEC, and other mechanisms figured. And I really liked one of your original philosophical formulations that there has to be a balance between competition and cooperation. And keeping that in mind, obviously all these players, they have done their role, but it's difficult to claim that they have played an optimal role, and therefore there is much scope for doing much better when it comes to this whole question that we have been discussing here. Dear friends, I know that we are getting late for your dinner. What I'm going to do is to engage very quickly with the audience for a short while. And I'm very lucky as chair to see that there are 2 or 3 people who have already registered their interest in sharing their observations or comments or questions. And I only hope that they will do so very briefly so that maybe in the last 5 minutes the panel would have a chance to respond to them or anyone else. So in this context, may I invite Mr. Mikiko Tanaka, Director and Head, South and Southwest Asia Office, UNESCO. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I was actually volunteered to volunteer, so very briefly, I thought I'd just share a reflection on this ecosystem for change, for connectivity in the sub-region, right, of BBIN. And from our own, I'm from SCAP, but we've been doing some work in this BBIN connectivity in recent years. And, you know, what we've noticed is that under the radar screen of the big investments that are going on, if you go to these individual border points, you know, the land customs stations, land ports, there are many other barriers, actually, you know, non-tariff barriers. And, you know, for instance, we, in 2023, November, we organized together with the government of Meghalaya a meet in Shillong. We went to the Dauki Tamabil, you know, when the ICP was already just completed, right? So we were looking at, okay, what happens when the infrastructure is done? Is the trade increasing? And this is where you notice that there are many, many small things, right? Non-tariff barriers in that sense was, you know, plant testing and animal testing. There's demand on both sides of the border for both exports, imports, whichever way you look at, for agricultural products, even garments that require plant testing. But then to put that in place, it requires on both sides actually, but in this case it was more India, like from the capital in New Delhi, at least 6 institutions have to cooperate and clear the, you know, the okays to actually have plant testing or animal testing closer to the border. Bangladesh side had other issues. Same thing, go to Dhaka, at least 6 institutions. And, you know, and they're busy with many, many, many things, right? Of, you know, national interest, actually. These little points, actually, you know, if the delegation of that decision-making can be done or problem-solving can be done at the borders, I mean, there are people who are capable of doing it, but that's not allowed. So it really puts into question this institutional framework for connectivity. It's not just the, you know, even the bigger agreements are difficult, but even when they are there, in order to implement, there are many other things that need to happen. And somehow this, I don't know, there needs to be a paradigm shift to try to work with existing systems, you know, and again, this Northeast region is very special. And if you include BBIN or Eastern South Asia, including Myanmar, this is really, really special in the sense of course, the history, we've heard of that too, the potential, we've heard of it. But you know, there are so many borders, there are so many boundaries. And with every boundary, be it states, be it countries, or even tribal, You have different institutions, you add on it, it multiplies. You have other economic actors, all of them have kind of interests. They don't align. So to break through all of this, to get the connectivity is extremely, well, I think really impossible. So this paradigm has to shift. And the governance is not easy either. I mean, if you're talking about Myanmar, I mean, that's the most difficult in the world probably. So this paradigm has to shift on how do you set up the institutions so that these little problems can be solved. And the last thing I like to also add, importance of including the local stakeholders. So we were looking at these border points that are quite remote from the capitals, seeing if the local communities are benefiting from trade, if the local businesses are, if the women are involved. It's not the case, you know. So we need to involve them, and if they are involved, if they are empowered, like I see in the case of Dauki Tamabil, July, August last year, you know, whatever kizuna that was built up, it was cut off. But now they are negotiating. They are trying to restore the trade that's going on. So, you know, again, gender is one of my pet SDGs, but that's really important. And for the 7 sisters to transform, I think many sisters have to come on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you have made 2 very good telling points, and I'm sure the panel has listened to you carefully about the region being very special, which means very complicated or even very specially complicated. And this whole question of the role of women, perhaps there would be some reaction. May I now request Mr. Kinosuke Kakita, Vertical Sales and Marketing Department Sales Manager, Kintesu World Express, to briefly address us with any observations or comments he may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all panelists. My name is Kakita. I'm working at the Japanese logistics company, and we were just starting to investigate how to transport cargo to Assam area. So today's discussion was very meaningful for us. Then, so we look forward to using the new port, Matarbari port, and new infrastructure. So one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, I think we have one more person. We are requesting Dr. Monish Turnagam, Director of KIPS, who's been very active in studying Indo-Pacific and particularly as part of that Northeast, to make his brief comments.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm the one standing between you and dinner, so I'll keep it at 1 minute. One from my own studies, in the sense that in the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific Studies, recently what we have tried to do is we have really tried to sub-regionalize the Indo-Pacific. And I think that really falls within what we have heard about sub-regional cooperation, the challenges and opportunities of it. And I think we are talking about it at a time of global turbulence and also regional turbulence. We have heard about Myanmar and Bangladesh. I don't need to speak more on that. But we are also facing a time when the words resilience, stability, predictability, this cannot be taken for granted. We have to work through that at a time when the most beautiful word in the dictionary happens to be tariffs, right? So I think the relationship between Japan and India becomes all the more important to sustain continuity through all the projects that we are talking about in a time when Bangladesh and Myanmar are passing through some form of their own political turbulence. So that's my first point. And so there is a silver lining in all this turbulence for these 2 countries to work together more fervently. The second point, I think, is the idea that one of the interventionists pointed out, that Northeast is special. And Northeast is also special in the sense that Northeast consists of 6 sisters and 1 brother or sister, 8 states, all in different stages of development with different levels of problems, with different kind of border problems. We're talking about an Assam which is rearing to go. In December, I was in Bengal, and Bengal was positioning itself as the rising east. So at the time when we are talking about states which are rearing to go, which are at different stages of development with semiconductor plants coming in, you also have states in Northeast which are in very different levels of problems. And there is a silver lining here that if India and Japan can sustain and work together to pass through and to lift off the most problematic states of the Northeast, there is a silver lining that this relationship is bound to create that paradigm shift that Madam was talking about for the development of the Northeast region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Monish. In order to be totally fair, I just want to make sure, is there any one more person who's not on my list wants to speak now? Good, all of you are hungry. That is, allow me now to give 1 minute each to each panelist, or at least that panelist who wants to respond, so that panel has the last word. May I start with you, sir? Would you? I'll give you my thing. You can use that. Just say any response that you wish to make for the floor, or any last-minute thoughts.
Thank you very much. So, to the first comments from the madam, indeed, in this region and also in any other regions, it is very difficult to facilitate the border trade or to establish necessary institutions for facilitating the border trade. So one of the examples is already presented by today JICA's representative about the one-stop border post between Rwanda and Tanzania. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, and also ASEAN has been introducing customs transit systems or something, that kind of system. So I said ASEAN's successful experience, but it does not mean they did it very easily. They took very long time with a lot of discussions, debates, and so on. So that process itself can be a good lesson for these regions. That's my answer to your comments. Thank you.
Nothing much to say, but to really emphasize that, we strongly believe that, by having the region cooperating more closely together is really the key to developing this area.
Well, creating industrial value chain connecting the Bay of Bengal and northeastern part of India certainly benefit every country in this region. But some panelists and some participants just pointed out it's very difficult to realize it, but Rome is not built in one day. Referring to the ASEAN examples, I know that Japan has been cooperating in creating economic corridor in the southern part of Mekong River. It took, I think, 2 decades to build it. So as far as this region, it also takes time, it's natural. So I'd like my message for everybody today is let's co-create ecosystems for change together. Thank you.
I agree with you. Actually, the ideal situation is seamless multimodal and intermodal connectivity. But unfortunately, okay, we are working on it. In this region, we are working on it. We are working on both physical as well as soft infrastructure. We are setting up integrated checkposts, land ports, etc. But still, restrictions are there, acting as a non-tariff barrier. And actually, we are working on it, BIMSTEC, but it is tough to go on. We are regarding trade facilitation, as I told you, we are negotiating on two instruments. One is on for through transport, one is on BIMSTEC motor vehicle agreement, and another is BIMSTEC free trade agreement. Still, it is very tough, but we are trying our level best for the same.
I had several comments about the political dimension and the economic dimension. But I think I used to work for ADB, but there's still a tremendous opportunity to discuss the economic integration and benefits at the bureaucratic level. So that's what is going on in the SASEC framework. And so in a sense, say for example, BBIN, as Bernard said, it's very close. So still, even the political situation is difficult. There's an opportunity to discuss and let the bureaucratic level make already agreements. And when the political situation improves, then make an announcement. So that level of readiness, I think we should not be so much pessimistic about, even the economic issues cannot be discussed. We can discuss.
Thank you very much, esteemed members of the panel. This was a panel representing governments, regional organizations, ADB, academia, and we tried our best to present to you not just the intricacies of the topic under discussion, industrial value chains, how to co-create them, but also we looked at the broader context of the area that we are talking about. I would like to share with you that undoubtedly Northeast is a very special region for its history, for its ethnic composition, for its critical geographical and strategic significance, and it is obviously rising. This comes out very clearly. It is on the path of fairly fast development, but it is probably not yet there where our optimal ambitions want it to be. And in that larger context, very clearly, Japan has become a strategically significant partner for India for co-creating progress and prosperity in Northeast and the larger neighborhood. And here I think those of us who are contributing to this process in India must always remember that while India-Japan friendship is deep and old and long, Japan would expect some returns. It is not the charity project that anyone is doing here. And therefore, as we lay out our expectations and hopes from Japan, I think it's also very important for us to know as to what Japan's requirements are, expectations are, so that there is a very decent trade-off between the benefits for Japan and benefits for India. I think this is what I would like to mention. Today, being the first day, we all were being a little careful and not talk much about the two major challenges which are facing this region. Bangladesh, the situation that was created there from 5th August onwards, and the very complicated situation that is happening or unfolding in Myanmar for the last 4 years. Let us hope that we will discuss these delicate, complicated issues on the sidelines of the conference, unless there is a session tomorrow which addresses them, because quite honestly, our plans, our ambitions, our hopes are for the region, and these two countries remain very, very important part of the region. Dear friends, this was not a summation, this was just a few thoughts which have been captured thanks to a very esteemed and very enlightened panel today. And I would like now in the end to invite you to express your appreciation for our panel by applauding them loudly. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to request all the panelists to kindly join for the photograph.